rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to
the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mrs. Marshall, you call the roll, please.
Mr. Browning?
Here.
Mr. McCourt?
Here.
Mrs. Malad?
Here.
Ms. Reister?
Here.
Mr. Wilson?
Here. Okay, I have a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Browning.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Reister. Any discussions, questions, comments?
I don't think so.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Motion carries. Move on to the superintendent's report. Mr. North.
Well, thank you. I have some guests here tonight that are about ready to make a presentation on their work of the new primary building. Before we get started, I'd like to lead into it a little bit, and I'd also like to explain in person. I've shared with you in notes, but you know, I talked to the board about two options, and later I realized I needed to define what that meant. And the two options that I was referring to, so everyone here tonight also knows, is the two different shades of brick. When we talked at the, that's your two options, this shade or that shade. But we started this process involving a lot of different community groups and looking at many different buildings, and they gave a lot of input on different styles, different colors, bricks, things like that. And this is one of those things where if the board would like to continue that one last time with this building, there is two distinct different looks on the outside of the building with either the lighter sandy colored brick or the darker reddish color brick. I hope I don't offend anybody when I say this, but I rarely make this kind of statement, but to me it's kind of a no-brainer. And I think it'd be interesting tonight to get input from the people here. And you may or you may not go ahead and put that out for people to be surveyed on. But my opinion is I think most people's going to prefer the darker shade. It adds a lot more depth. That's my personal opinion. And it provides certainly what I believe to be a warmer aesthetics. But again, that's I want to make sure that everybody understands that's my personal bias. But if you want us to go ahead and put both with that front panel, both those out on the website to get comments through a survey, we certainly can, or we can go ahead and move forward with just putting this information out on the website after first the board sees this tonight. Secondly, I'd like the opportunity for the primary school staff to get a chance to view these panels and this video, and then at that point put this on our website for our entire community to be able to see. The other thing I want to share with you is that towards the end of this process, there was a lot of discussion among many of the staff members involved in this process about the importance of remembering the buildings that have been in this district and served the community and educated children for many, many years. Black Lane, Central, we can go on. Some of these buildings have been reused and kind of renamed, and some of them are now part of our history. And so the conversation that developed through those discussions was, well, since we're calling each section or wing of this building a community, why don't we name each community after one of the buildings in the district that has served and educated children for many, many years? And so the architects ran with that, and they also included some pictures, and these are just first pictures. The plan is to get a hold of pictures that are maybe better developed than the ones we had to work with. And one of the things that Pam's going to do is she's going to communicate out on the website, and we're going to communicate out to the public that if people have pictures of the old buildings, if anybody would be willing to bring those pictures in so we could review them. And if there's pictures that are better than what we have, if we can borrow them long enough to copy those and send those to the architects, then we will do that. In addition to that, there was discussion about different artifacts and different ways to add to that memory and that respect of the memory of these old buildings. And it ties into a conversation that Mr. McCourt and I had. A very short conversation one day. He stopped into the office and he said, I have something here, and I can't remember the gentleman's name. I hope you can remember. And he said, this come from Baker High School, home of the Flyers. And he said, I think that if we could somehow find the appropriate place for this, it might serve the district well. Well, it was hanging on my coat rack in the office for a long time. And then after having these conversations with several staff members, from naming a community after a building, there was also the discussion of, wouldn't it be nice if we had 2 or 3, maybe 4 artifacts that we could display at the entrance of each one of these communities, at the entrance of the hallway, by where the community is, it's called Wright, or where it's called Baker, that things that come from those buildings. And so the other thing Pam's going to do is also send out a request for anybody that has artifacts from any of those old schools. If they will bring them in, we're going to select 2 or 3, and we're going to utilize those to help identify and pay homage or pay respect to the traditions of the past, the buildings of the past. And I think we have a pretty good one to start with for Baker. So I'm going to take this out now. Oh no, I've already messed this box up. See if I can keep it held together for a second.
Oh,
Does that look familiar, Pat?
That's it.
That's it?
That's it, pal.
Now, who was the person that either loaned this to or you stole it from?
Well, we got that from Baker, and at that time, I can't recall, I think it was Kim.
So you did steal it.
Did you?
Kim. Yeah, no. O'Laughlin? Kim had that, and way back when, we used to have a male majorette, guy by the name of Mike Thomas. This guy could do wonders with a baton. And I don't know if this was actually the one he wore, but it takes me back to when we were blue and gold and the Flyers. So this is the first time I've seen this. It's wonderful.
So,
Great
kind of give
stuff.
you an idea of what we're looking at. So, for example, when you walk down the entrance of the hallway, or again, as what we will be referring to as the community, the Baker community, to have this artifact along with 2 or 3 others hanging at that entryway, we just think it's the appropriate way to, pay respect to the traditions and to the people that served the children of Fairborn and the children that attended school in these various buildings. And not only did we have that conversation, but the architects took it a little bit further. And when you go into as they'll show you here in a little bit, when you go into the main entrance of this new primary building, they've also taken that same theme and highlighted some areas and people and accomplishments of Fairborn to tie in all these buildings to one central theme that you will see that Brian's put together when he takes you into the entrance of the building. So they can do a much better job of explaining this, and 1,000 times better at showing you with visual effects. So at this point, I'm going to take this over here.
Kind of put your hand over your heart, will you, people?
And,
I think there's only 4 people here that were Fairborn Flyers.
It's all right, we'll just leave that right there.
Cool stuff.
That's good.
And
I promise not to kick you.
I've got another shadow box that looks like I've scratched that one up. We got 2, didn't we? All right, with that, Mike,
Ah, good.
I'm going to turn this over to you and your team.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. It's been a long time coming. We have been working very, very hard, trying to just dial this in right for you, making it right for your community. In the back here, you see a lot of the images here. I have most of these, actually all of these in my presentation tonight, so I'm going to go through the presentation. I'm not going to go through it so fast you can't keep up. But Brian over here has a really nice walkthrough that really gives you a sense of an experience of it. The still images are nice, they're beautiful, but the walkthrough is pretty cool. We also have some panoramic stuff. You're able to look up, down, around, and we'll pass those over to your district. We'll have all these images on your website. So really just take a moment, digest it. There's a lot of fun stuff here for everyone to sort of play with technology-wise. And then we look forward to coming to the primary and getting to present to your staff and taking it to the next step. Okay, so schedule-wise, as you can see, we have a lot of work here, a lot of work done already, but we have a lot more work to go. So currently, we're right here, design development. We're 80% in. On February 9th, we're going to be doing a internal estimating set. As we go through, we meet quite regularly with our estimator in-house to make sure we're tracking properly. But when we get to the end of that design phase, it's sort of a double check. So on February 9th, we'll do that. And I believe 2 weeks later, we'll be handing it over to OFCC and Hill International. But that's just this right here. We got this much more to go. So a lot more work to go. But we're having a lot of fun, and we appreciate the opportunity. If my clicker would work here. Can you just pass it? There we go. So process. How did we get here? How did we get to these images, right? Well, a lot of process, a lot of communication, and a lot of collaboration. It started off with that visiting session, understanding what's important to Fairborn. Right? So over here are just some images. As you can see, there's a lot of discussion back and forth, whether or not it's through Post-it notes, whether it's not through the boards up there, and even conceptually space planning there. And if from a very abstract design standpoint, what you see here is really what's in that plan there, believe it or not. We're able to dissect and understand this in the sense that the idea is to have these learning communities with a central extended learning space. That each one of these learning communities will have multiple small group rooms between paired classrooms. And that each one of these K2 learning communities and the primary will also be centrally located to the media center, I'm sorry, not the music room, art room, the commons, and the gymnasium. Because right now, it's what, about a quarter-mile walk just to sort of get around.
Yes, it is.
So if any of you have been over to the book room over at the primary school, that's typically where we have our meetings. In that classroom corridor, so if you step out of the book room and you look just to the right and look down that hallway, that's as long as each one of those corridors there for them. So I believe we've nailed and accomplished getting over the quarter-mile walk. Your step counts will go down, so you're going to have to do more work. I'm just saying.
More laps.
All right, so I've talked about this. Oh, I do want to also point out, and not to put Mr. North here on the spot, but with great gratitude and accomplishment, because never before in OFCC history has this been accomplished. So, and this is a big deal, though. This is really, really big. No kidding. So in order to give this school ultimate flexibility, it's really important that the K2 classrooms are sized similar. So in the program, typically those kindergarten classrooms are around 1,200 square feet. We really felt to give you that flexibility and still make them functional, it was really important to have all those classrooms be the same size. So you can year to year change and have that flexibility and growth. In addition, no individual restrooms in those kindergarten classrooms, but if you notice in that plan, those large group restrooms are able to support those learning communities. So as they come into those learning communities and as they leave those learning communities, those restrooms are right there centrally located, not necessarily in your face per se, but they're centrally located so that it has that traffic flow working. Department meetings. So we talked about the visioning session. We've done department meetings. As you can see, we've met with a lot of people here numerous times. And in fact, tomorrow we're meeting and wrapping up the safety and security team, hopefully. You know, if we have to meet more, we certainly will do that, but I think we're in a really good place right now. In addition to all those department meetings, in addition to the visioning session, we've met with all these agencies numerous times. It's important as we go through this process that it's a collaborative process. It's important that it's a collaborative process because we don't want to get to the finish line and say, oops. So as we're sitting here showing you this, it's important that you guys like it. It's important that it's special to you, and it's important that we hit the mark and make a building that is very specific and unique to them. And a lot of the things that Mr. North has already talked about is about bringing in that history, right? So project information, we're on time. We've talked about that already, and we're on budget. Alternates. So there's been some discussions. I was sort of purposely roaming the back over here, listening to the comments of the images over there, and there are alternates. Alternates are important. We have a budget to maintain. We have a schedule to maintain. These alternates will, hopefully on bid day, give you that flexibility to add some of that extra color, add some of those graphics. Rubber tile as a upgraded floor material. Site design, I just want to go over this really quickly. So right there, that's about the length of your corridors now in those classroom wings. As you can see, woo, they give you a nice little workout there. So our building site is right over here. So this was a very early concept sketch. This was, in fact, I believe was used in our interview to get as we were presenting for this project. So conceptually, we're pretty darn close as far as how we thought it was going to work out. So when we get to the early site package, when you see us out there on site in the summer with our big toys and putting it in the early site package, this is what we call the no-fly zone. Perfect for Pat, right? We want to make sure we maintain that operations of that existing primary school, whether it's drop-off, buses, service, staff, and kids playing. So we're going to make sure that we move that play equipment over there and then sort of leave you alone for a little bit. So then we're going to be happy neighbors for a little bit. 2 years, these two schools have to live on site together. It's going to be a little tight. It's going to be a little uncomfortable. But in the end, it's going to be beautiful. It's going to be beautiful because now your drop-off drive is many, many, many hundreds of feet, getting those cars off the road. You have separation of your bus parking of over 40 buses. So all those buses, they'll come in here. We have the smaller buses up here, the larger buses down there, and they all funnel through down here. You have AM, mid, and PM PK here, and then an alternate for some separate parking there, and then the green space and fields down through there. Floor plan wise, if you think back to that process sketch that I had up there, that very abstract image. Well, this is here. We have each one of these learning communities, and it's all centrally located to these extended learning spaces. And each one of these paired classrooms have that small group room. You have a dedicated single-story PK wing and a very efficient two-story, three two-story K2 learning communities. So this just shows the efficiency, these rooms stacking. There's sort of an added benefit to having the K2 classrooms all the same as the added benefit and efficiencies of those things, which adds to a greater economy. Exterior design. Here's the existing primary school. It served you well, but now it's time to move. Here's what we're proposing for the new entry. This is just as Mr. North has talked, we're going to be showing just a couple of options for your consideration as far as the sandy brick versus the more warmer tones reds. This is a view from Dayton Yellow, showing you a couple different options. Here's the primary entry. Here's coming in off Funderburg. So as I talked about, that drop-off traffic is coming from Funderburg. So this is, as you come up, you have splashes of color. Warm, fun, playful, primary PK appropriate design. Here's the PK bus drop-off. These areas here at the entry, as well as this PK entry, all the sort of main entries will have a simulated wood. So it's not real wood, it's simulated wood. It's going to be very long lasting, but it gives you a nice warm tone when you come in there. Interior design, Mr. Hilbert. All me. All right, he's trusting me with his design, so be careful. Right here is the main entry as you come in. This is the base bid. So what we don't have the graphics and all that sort of fun stuff. So sometime last week, I was coming into work. I did pull over on the side of the road when I took the sky picture. There was jet streams in the sky. I don't know if it was an act of God or what it was talking to me, but I came in and I immediately sent it to my design team, and I said, we got to put this stuff in the images. So Brian came up with this idea. So as a alternate sort of perspective, this history wall of Fairborn as you come in, and those lines are very purposeful. They're the jet stream lines. So it's fun, it's exciting, and it adds a little bit of fun character to it. And again, this simulated wood ceiling up there as you come in.
Can you zoom in on that wall, Mike?
Probably.
We can only go through the model.
Will you go ahead and explain some of those pictures?
Sure. You got the NASA, Brian, what all did you got? The Wright brothers?
We have Colonel Greg Johnson, so our tribute to Colonel Greg Johnson there, that's already at the elementary school. I have some Ohio history, so currently in the elementary cafeteria right now, there's some murals of Ohio inventions, so some of that is in there. I have some of the current historical Fairborn buildings, the theater, their first, I think it's the firehouse, that's in there. Some other, of course, the Wright brothers, since they were very near close. There's some other, I believe the little jet that's on the lamppost is from the Historical Society, Fairborn Historical Society there. And again, we can work with the Historical Society, we can work with the school district on what those images really are. And this is just kind of a concept of an image.
These are just concepts. There's a lot more work to go. And there's going to be a lot more fine-tuning as we begin to sort of get exactly how you guys want this to work for you. So from a wayfinding standpoint, you'll see in these next few slides, you'll see an orange, you'll see a blue, you'll see a green, you'll see a red. It's important from a wayfinding standpoint to identify those with color. It's also important even from a first responder standpoint. Sometimes in sort of the heat of the moment, if you will, sometimes you get a little disoriented. I'm at the orange area. Very easy to identify. You can see these colors from the outside as well. So this in the base bid, we have, I'm sorry, go back to the one more time. We just have the black lane in right there. We have the A wing, one obviously for the first floor, two for the second floor. But as an alternate, we can add those images within that A. So when you're in that, would be when you first come into that main bus drop-off, as you come through that main door right there. This really nice graphic. Speaking of the history of Fairborn, while at the same time being fun and playful with colors and wayfinding with letters and numbers. This is the B wing, blue, base bid. Again, adding those graphics in there, Baker and East. And then the C wing. We have the 5 points in Palmer South. And again, similar identification, one on the first floor, obviously, two on the second, with their images in there. Park Hills, this is for the PK. And then adding those graphics within there. So this is the PK corridor wing as you go down. Very fun, playful colors, livening that up. If you think back to the sometimes days of old, right? You go down, double-loaded corridor, cream walls, blah, blah, blah. Fun and playful. Lots of warm tones. And I want to point out, that's also, to the right there, direct access for those kids as they go down. So you'll have nice warm sunlight coming through down in that corridor. Those kids sort of, they don't really, they run. And there'll be lots of fun colors. And you're going to go to the purple, you're going to go to the green, you're going to go to the orange, and they can go directly outside. These are the extended learning spaces. Nice space to sort of get out of the classroom, but they still have that direct connection. More conversation, we need to discuss with you as far as with regard to furniture there. Furniture we'll discuss later down the road. But the idea is that we have a lot of group activities here. The idea is this is also a dispersed extended media center for all the K-2 learning communities. This is just showing what the classroom corridor wing could look like down the C wing with its added graphics as an alternate.
Mike, take a second to explain the learning centers for each separate community and how many total.
So we have, there's 3 classroom learning communities on the first floor and 3 classroom learning communities on the second floor. Each one of those learning communities have an extended learning space that surrounds or is centrally located as best we could for those classrooms so that they can go have breakout space, they can do group activities, they can go lay out large project spaces, they go out there for their media center time, library time. A number of different ideas. The thought is that it doesn't have one purpose. The thought is that it has that flexibility so there's not one solution to a space. So when we go back to that common space, can we go to that common space? Central Commons? Keep going forward. One more. Okay. Go one more. Go one more. Okay, so here's the base bit of the central common space here. And as you can see over here, this blue area is the stage. What you don't see in this rendering is the fact that there's going to be actually an operable partition that extends across there. And that's going to be used for APE and for stage. Being able to use these spaces in your building to have multiple functions is important. To have a space just sit there and be empty doesn't make sense. So we want to, as we go through and we design these spaces and work with you, we want to make sure that it can be multifunctional so that you can have that flexibility and growth. So on this lower level is the music room, directly across from that stage area. On the upper level would be the art room, which if you get up real close, you can see there's actually a display case there. So as you come into that central common space, what I envision, hopefully, is a lot of beautiful primary art in that space. So as you come in, all the wonderful colors that are associated with that and how that would brighten that space up. And then your gymnasium. So your gymnasium, God love the Ohio Building Code. They threw you a curveball. So when we started this project, tornado shelters were not required in required for schools. Well, the Ohio Building Code changed, and now we have to add a tornado shelter for your school. This tornado shelter is sized proper for all your students and staff. It will hold everybody in there. It'll have 250-mile-an-hour impact-resistant louvers, walls, roof, everything. It is the stoutest gym I've ever had the opportunity to work on. It has dedicated restrooms. It has, they call it missile impact louvers. They're not really missile impact. They're just, what they're saying is it'll take it abuse and keep on kicking.
What about earthquakes?
Yeah, I would imagine so. Okay, so this is the base bid option. And so look at the alternates though. So in the alternate, we have wood floors. We have acoustical wall panels. We have a couple extra basketball backstops. We have a gym divider curtain. Much more warm, much more fun place to go, okay? So with that, thank you. And I'm going to let Brian take over the show now. I'm going to talk a little bit. He's going to do the walkthrough right now. So this is, we use Revit for our work in the office. Revit's a pretty cool tool. Sometimes they let me play with it, sometimes they don't. Anytime I get in the model, they make me detach it because I can't play with their stuff. But it's a three-dimensional thing where we actually put together walls, windows, doors, structure, mechanical ductwork, plumbing, everything. You might even see a few extra plumbing pieces hanging out in the sky over here that we found. So it's really neat because you could just export the model, and we have such a talented staff. They make it seem so easy, even with these renderings. In the days of old, I remember when I had the lovely opportunity, it would take me, I would need to know weeks and weeks in advance. And now they put it together fairly quickly. Not that it's not hard for them. They're very talented, and they have a lot of better tools than I had when I was younger. So here we are. We've come off Dayton Yellow. We're looking at your main front entry there. Two of those flagpoles will be an alternate. The one, obviously, that will have as the base bid would be the American flag closest to the building. As you can see, this is your PK wing, single story, much more scale appropriate. A lot of fun colors, but yet still warm, yet still traditional, yet still a little bit modern, and fun. Here's the PK entry that you saw that still image of. And here's the really kind of cool part that we talked about. And Brian will bring you inside the building here once we go around the outside. But that's that single loaded corridor off that PK wing. So they have that direct entry into the playground area there. So those kids can just come right out of their classrooms on a nice day, run around to their heart's content and learn. Trees might take a little bit of time to get that big. So even, well, let's just hold right there. Can we just so this is looking at one of those K2 communities. So that simulated wood ceiling that we talked about, that splash of color, those warm tones in the brick. The colors, in my opinion, deinstitutionalize it, make it kind of a fun place to go, not so regular. Warm, inviting. Don't hit the wall, Brian. Oh, it's close. Damn. I only have my learner's permit for this program, so I'm letting Brian drive tonight. This is looking at the other two learning communities. Similar concept. Have that nice warm tone simulated wood, those splashes of color with those classroom windows, and then the different tones in brick to break up the mass of that building. Dedicated playground area. Oh, Brian, my head hurts.
We are seeing both the light colored and the red brick. If the option is to go to red, will we still have a combination of, or will it all be the red brick?
No, it would be a combination just as you see here. The combination, in my opinion, and I agree with Mr. Norris, the combination is not only it warms the building up, but it really begins to break down the masses of the building. So you're not looking at this long facade with it. It adds scale to it and breaks up the module of the building.
Yeah, so in the other option, the light colored would still be light colored, and then the
Oh,
dark.
yeah, light
the
color
dark would
everywhere.
change to
Yeah,
light
so
color.
there's the all, we'll call it sand color, and the other option with the
Right.
sand and the red. That's your mechanical yard. Some floating plumbing pieces we talked about earlier. Yep, back up just a little bit. And then back to the entry. Now we're going to go to the inside. And this is going to be more fun, I believe. This will be really neat.
Let's stop there for a
Okay.
second, because that's the view that runs parallel with Dayton Yellow Springs Road. And, you know, two of the words that were primarily used from our community input was the desire to have a building, and the two words that were repeated were warm and inviting. And I think that's the reason why, and Mike, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the combination of the two colors was to pull that concept of warm and inviting by using two different colors instead of
Yes.
just one.
Warmer tones, breaking up the mass, yet still playful with the colors.
Go ahead and take them inside. Imagine we just cut the ribbon and everybody's charging the doors like
Through the doors,
like Black Friday.
So here we are. You want to zoom in on that wall, Brian? Nope. On the, yep. There you go.
He's working on it.
So again, all this stuff that you see here is, for right now, is just a concept, and we're going to work really hard with you to develop and make it even more special for you.
Before we leave there, I think where the front office is,
Mhm.
could we talk about the routing of people from a security standpoint?
Yeah, we haven't,
while
but I
we're
can
there?
certainly talk to you about that. Sure. So typically in the morning, all the bus drop-off and the main entry where the parent drop-off are open. The system is flexible enough to give you the adjustment throughout the years to set different time schedules. But for right now, people would get buzzed in before they come into that vestibule. When they come to that vestibule, they'd come into this main office over here. Before they leave that main office, they get buzzed out into that main area. So let's say students are supposed to be in their classrooms learning. the entire building is locked down, if you will. And then the only way to get into that building is through that front door, through a secure vestibule, and then buzzed out again into the main school building itself.
So
The-
it forces people through the main office.
Correct.
Yeah.
There's also two pairs of doors to each one of those learning communities. So in the event of a lockdown situation, those doors would close automatically. You have free egress at any point through any of these spaces. Another feature on the pair of doors, you'll have single door handles on the side that you'd be coming in, so that they can't change them shut. The pair of doors themselves will be on hold opens. So let's say it's a fire alarm. We want to make sure they're not fire doors, so we want to make sure we get people out as quickly as possible, so they'll be left open. But in the event of a lockdown situation, those pair of doors would close. Okay?
I just, to me, the routing is important because we
Yep.
don't have that today. People can enter buildings and go wander
Correct.
around, and this fixes that.
Yeah, it would actually be will be a video phone out there, so anybody will be able to pull it up. So we've come in, we've now been allowed to enter into your building. Right here to the immediate right is the PK wing. This is sort of a view looking down into their courtyard space. So now we're going to go down. And these are showing the alternates in there. So when you see those graphics on the wall, those graphics are actually the alternates, but the colors themselves will be in the base bid. So as you can see, a really nice sort of park-like setting for those kids into the PK wing. Maybe a couple years down the road when those trees do get bigger. So now we're coming down over here to the central commons. There's a stair over here and the stair on the opposite side that'll take students to the upstairs 3 classroom learning communities. To the left over here is your gymnasium. So we've walked in, it's basketball night.
Yeah, it's all there.
So Mike, this whole, the way you guys have this set up is with all of the alternates?
Correct.
Of
Correct. We wanted to make
course.
sure.
Make sure we remind you.
Yes, and I want to make sure that it's there because we want to show you what your vision is. We want to make sure that we capture your vision. So we have those alternates in place, so hopefully on bid day we get some of the, and some of these things we can even add down the road. Some of these things we can, if we get done with the intermediate school and we find that there's still dollars in the pot, we could still go back and add those graphics. We could still go back and add in the acoustical wall panels. Things like wood floors, that's a little bit harder to add, so we want to sort of discuss stuff like that. So once we get further along in the process and we get those bids in, we'll strategize on how we want to approach this and make sure we're making the right decisions that are best for you in the long term, that also give you that flexibility to add some of these things if we can't get them all that first day. So now we're in the central common space. Over to the left is the stage, and again, you can see just a little bit there. That's the operable panel partition that is in the open position, but that would be closed in an event that it was being used for something other than a performance. You can see that back stairway over there. You see the A, the B, the C, your music, your art. And PK, thank you, stop right there, I love this. So little kids down in the cafeteria, right there, PK. Where are we going? Going to PK, that's where you're going. It's right there, it's like perfect, it's perfect. So, a happy coincidence. So this is right here where the main bus drive is. They come in. There's that A graphics that you saw that still image of. Very fun, and again, bright and colorful. Sure. Over here, yep. This is one of those small group rooms. So each one of those paired classrooms have this small group room. This sliding glass door here would be an alternate if it's not, if base bid would just have a opening right there. You want to go in one of the classrooms down there? Ooh, okay. No, not that one. We're missing furniture, Brian. That's the special one. Okay. So in this regular classroom you see here, a nice little window seat built out of your casework, while still being utilized for storage for maybe a nice little space for a kid to sort of curl up on those cold days and read a book, or maybe even on a nice day. Cubbies for the kids, casework above for storage, sinks. And again, furniture hasn't been worked out yet, so we'll get there we'll continue to coordinate and collaborate with you. A direct view into that small group room space where that window was. So you see, as you come down the hall, each one of those paired classrooms has that small group room. And then the extended learning space and those other classrooms that surround it. And then what I really like about this space is not only the flexibility for it to be really anything and give the teachers that flexibility, but that beautiful view out to the outside, making that connection to the exterior. And those are the restrooms over there on the right. And then each one of these spaces is really set up the same. And so we're going to go upstairs now. It is. So let's walk. Yeah, so it's, I don't know, winter. You're having the winter festival or something for the stage performance. You can have all that lovely, lively activity down in that lower level, but you could also have it up here on this higher level. Great for videotaping, great for kids to see it. And really connects those spaces. And again, that almost two-story display case wall off the music and art room where you could have the kids' artwork displayed is just going to really make it, put the icing on the cake, if you will. Some teacher collaboration spaces. And just sort of take them back down. So as you can see, everything is really nice. It's open, it's compact, it's efficient, it's warm. Most of all, it's beautiful, and it's perfect for you. We've worked really hard to listen, and we'll continue to work hard and listen to you as we continue to put the finishing touches on it. So with that, I thank you, and open it up to questions. That's it?
Yes, double clap.
I don't.
I think the biggest question you're going to get is the question that was asked tonight, you know, which one of these versions we can have, and the method behind the madness with doing these alternatives or alternates is that if we put the alternates in, and any time that whether we come under bid or different parts of the phases of the construction project, there's opportunities that we can save money, so we can capture dollars, as Mike said, throughout. Then we have these alternates already built into the contract, and we pay the price of what they were bid at the time of the contract. If we do not do that, then there's this dirty word in construction, from my perspective, called change order. Yeah. Awful word. And you pay a lot more money for change orders. So Pat asked me earlier, in your experiences, have you been able to come in under bid? And I've been very fortunate in the projects I've been involved with that they've all been under bid. Can we guarantee this one will? We can't guarantee that, but the architects have been very intentional on the size of this project to capture as many companies as possible that bid on this size of project, and there's lots of companies from Indiana, Ohio, from quite a distance that will come in for a project this size, that are built to handle projects this size. The time of the year that we're going to bid this out is the most optimal time to do that, where they're coming off of construction projects. The construction companies will be more hungry at the time of these bids. That's been calculated so that we can get those better bids. I can't promise that we will get every alternative on there, but experience has been that we can get many, and what you will end up seeing is probably something somewhere in the middle between those two views that you have, and with the hope and even belief that it will lean more towards the one that's more detailed than the other. Mike, would you?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. where you sit right now, you're great. You have access to Cleveland, you got access to Cincinnati, you got access to Indiana. I mean, you're almost centrally located. We're going to be bidding towards the end of the year, and that's great. They want to load up their books for the upcoming year. So we've timed this thing. We know we need to hit the mark. And as I said at the beginning of my presentation, right now we're currently on time and on budget, and we're gonna hit it. I promise you, because I don't want to deal with the consequences if I don't. So we're working really, really hard. I'm serious. We're meeting with our estimators all the time in the office and making sure. But we also want to make sure we're capturing. I'm serious. We want to capture that vision for you. And we want to make sure that you have that opportunity and flexibility on bid day or after to add these pieces, because these are the things that make it special and unique to you, okay?
Yeah. We're nice when you're on time and on budget.
Yes, trust me.
A couple questions. Did I hear you say earlier that if we go in maybe some areas on the base and not the better option or the more expensive option, we could, maybe a year or two down the road, still have the option to come back and get that better option?
Yeah, let's pick the gym. That's an easy one. You know, if we're going to do the wood floor, we're going to want to make that decision. You can do it, but it's really, really hard and be really expensive. So we'd want to make that decision up front and early. The acoustical wall pads, we can add those things. The divider curtain, you'll have the structure set up to have it, but you know, you can add that down the road. So we want to be make sure that the base bid design is set up to make sure that you can add it. So the acoustical wall pad, you can add those earlier on. Some of the graphic stuff, those are added all the time after the fact. But honestly, it'd be really, really great to add it that first day.
Sure.
When those kids come in, having that history there. As you can see, it might fall in between those two. I'm an optimist. Can't think of a project that I've done where we've gotten no alternates, and I think we're going to get some. We've timed this thing right. When we start the beginning of that next year, that's when they're going to want to be loading up their books, okay? So we've done everything we can to make sure we've give you the best possible outcome.
The listing of the alternates that was included, is that ranked currently, or will there
No.
be a ranking?
No, so currently it's just a list. What we're doing right now, we're not at that stage yet. We're gathering. Right there is what you see is a big bucket. Certainly, as we get further down the pipeline, yes, we'll work with you, we'll work with the district. We will make that, obviously, decision for you, but we'll give you recommendation and guidance on how to prioritize that.
Okay.
So, no, right now it's just everything in one big bucket.
Katie, I'm going to jump in. That'll be part of the weekly meetings. Like I said, we don't have to make those decisions right after the bids. You know, as we go through, and OFCC will not let us make a lot of those decisions because they're going to time out how much work is done to how much money they release. So it's been my experience, and Julie's here as our owner agent to oversee this project, make sure it's working right. It's been my experience that we'll be adding alternates all the way up to the end, because OFCC is going to say, okay, we're 50% complete. We're willing to release 50% of your contingencies or funds. We're 75% complete. We're 90% complete. And like Mike said, it really comes down to the alternates of what do we need to put in now that's going to be most cost efficient and saving the things that you can put in later that it doesn't matter as far as cost whether they go in now or later. So it's really ranked on how you can get the best bang out of the buck.
Sure, I can understand that.
On your alternate package is how they will come out.
And Mike, did I hear you say start to finish? Are we looking at a 2-year project on both buildings?
Yeah, so we're going to finish this building up in June of 2020. And then we're not going to do that. If we go, well, can you go back to that final, is that easy to pull up? Let's go back to, go to the interim site plan. Yep. Okay. So it's June 2020. And we've moved into the building, and these are these two buildings having to live together for 2 years. They're living together for 2 years because we're taking the PK2 and we're moving over here, keeping the third graders there, and we're going to make this a 3-5 building for 2 years. So while these kids move down, we're going to tear down your intermediate school and construct a new one. So that's not that any project is easy, but it's an easier process where you go in, you tear down and build. This one, again, it's going to have a little bit of, we're going to be cozy. We're going to be cozy for a while, for 2 years. But we're going to have staggered starts. We're going to make the best of it, and we'll get through it. Because in the end, Brian, we're going to have this beautiful site where you have now room to breathe. You have plenty of parking, a parking lot alternate, separated bus drive. I remember the first time I came to the primary school, it's like organized chaos when you see all those buses out there. And you see the cars stacked in. I mean, they're like, you look at that parking lot there, and it's very well organized. But now we're going to give you a little bit more chance to breathe. It's still going to be organized, but it's not going to be so compact. So we have the separate bus entry, the separate drive. So in 2022, now it's there. Now there's the vision.
So one question I got is, what point do we start, I didn't see it on the timeline, start on the design of the second building?
As soon as these bid docs go out, it's just seamless.
Okay.
We're running.
So that'll overlap the construction of this building. That's good.
This is I call this a marathon sprint.
Yeah. I guess a couple comments. I think you guys have hit the mark.
Thank you.
I think it's something.
I want to point out, it just wasn't me.
I understand.
You have
I understand.
we got lots of horses.
I'll rephrase it. You
Yeah.
guys have done a good job of capturing all the input from everybody in the community to hit the mark. I do like the darker brick better personally
Yeah.
with the accent colors. I think it's something that the community can be proud of. I really do. I think it'll be like a focal point. I don't know, well, my thought, though, was what do the people think that are sitting here that have to live in the building?
Do you feel
Cheryl?
like it's captured what we visioned back? Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
A lot of
I
nodding
think
heads out
it's really
there.
good. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's exciting times for the city. The other comment I was going to make is the historical part and tying to the heritage. I think that's a great idea, to keep that alive within Fairborn. I think the idea of working with the Historical Society and the city and capturing some of that is also good, and bringing them in and having them, be part of it. So, great job.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, I ducked over and talked to Mr. North. I think the city council would be very interested in this similar presentation here.
Absolutely.
They have
We want
a-
to get your blessing first,
Yeah,
though.
they have a work session meeting that's not the open recorded meeting.
Oh, perfect. I love those.
That's the second Monday of the month. Well, and
Okay.
that allows you more feedback
Okay.
back and forth with council members and mayor and city manager and everybody else involved in the city, so.
Just two last things for the board, and I think, Andy, the idea of showing city council, especially as much as they've been involved in their administrative teams and their various departments have been intimately involved with this thing. But
Can you go back
we
to that
definitely
one
would like to
with all those agencies?
schedule that presentation with the primary staff next,
Yeah.
and then we can with city council. At this point after tonight, it's really not a presentation for input, but it's a presentation for information. And the one thing that I need to ask the board regarding input, again, is with the first two slides that we have over here, and I'm going to take responsibility for this. My original idea was, again, to continue with providing this input with this option of the external aesthetics of the building. The more time I've spent thinking about this over the last several days, the more I guess I've come to realize that it's probably a really dumb idea that I had. So if the board would you want to accept that dumb idea and go ahead and put that out for public comment on whether we should go with a one-tone building. How many 100,000 square feet, Mike?
You're at 132,000 square feet
So
right now.
133,000 square feet of everything
Of
being the
sand.
same, or it broke up with the other one. We probably could eliminate a couple of those slides. But again, that's for the board to decide, and if I put you in a bad spot, I apologize.
Well, my personal opinion is also the
It was
darker.
a dumb idea?
No, the darker color
guys think?
brick.
Do you guys
Yeah.
find it,
I
okay.
think you're gonna be really disappointed if you put it out there and the kid, somebody comes back and says, oh,
Cheryl?
I mean, I feel like the people who
Wanna
are
sh-
gonna live
we
in
wanna
it
show
should
of
be the
hands
ones
here?
to make that
We do
decision.
show of hands.
Dark, dark.
Yes.
And I guess my only concern is, I mean, I love the two-tone as well, but my concern where we do have that light color, I mean, I'd like to have twice as much red than I do have the tan color. My concern is, especially if we have gutters or however we do it, water dripping down onto that tan color, and then eventually, as it continues to drip or whatever, then we see lime stains, if you will, going down that brick.
I think the goal, though, with this new building is that we have such appropriate water. So there will be no drips.
I understand that.
Yes.
But I do know brick, and brick will,
We don't want frozen pipes and
How
water.
accustomed we are to having poor roofing.
Well, and Pat has a good point, and of course, there's probably nobody in this building, maybe this town, that knows brick better than Pat. But, you know,
Well,
there is a change of philosophy, and it's already taken place, and that is to be preventive and proactive, or I'm sorry, yeah, be preventive and proactive rather than reactive. And one of the things that I got to remind the board is that you also asked the voters to vote in a 1/4 mil maintenance levy so that we could be preventive and proactive and make sure that the things that have happened in the past will not happen in the future. As I've shared with the board in notes, I'll say it publicly, you know, there's to some point where we've hired these architects who have designed more school buildings than anybody else in the state for how many years now, Mike?
Over 100, sir.
Over 100 years. And there's a certain amount of trust we got to put in their hands. They've done an excellent job of getting input from all those different organizations, well with staff. So we're at a point where, like I said, we can go one tone or we can go, it's not really two-tone because you've got all those other colors and you've got synthetic woods and you've
Yeah.
got, or we can go with a variety of tones and textures and colors with the other option.
Yeah.
You know,
True.
if you're good with that, then we'll tell them to
Go to the door.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
get rid of the one, move
Yeah.
on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
Agreed. And I'd like to just tell you, I have personally survived a side-by-side, as well as Mrs. Griest here. We've survived the side-by-side SHP build with having two, I think Matter River Middle was built, 10 feet from our back windows with a whole classroom of sixth graders. And we survived it, 10 feet away. But, yeah, so you guys are in good hands. It's going to be okay.
I
Good
talked with Mark a couple days ago, and Mark, if I may share with the group, I mean, I have said from the outset of this project, I want the Taj Mahal. Now, I know we can't afford the Taj Mahal, but we will have the nicest that we can afford and that the taxpayers give us some money to have. But Mark had mentioned, and he has worked with SHP for a lot of years, and he said to me, and I in looking at both the presentation and the pictures in the back, he has said to me that they have outdone themselves. And I don't know what you've done in the past, but, you know, this is something amazing to me. I mean, I've been in town for a long time, and this is, I think it's important for everybody to understand, and I know you know it, but to think about it, we'll only see this one time in our lives. One time. And we're all a part of it. And I just, That's wonderful. It's wonderful for our kids, and it's high time they're getting it.
Well, I also shared with Pat that day, I said, if Fairborn got this excited over the Kroger store, they've not seen anything yet. This certainly could possibly be the crown jewel of Fairborn. And, and the other thing I need to point out is, I've worked with SH&P and other projects for many years, but this Board of Education selected SH&P before they selected me. So, you had some good foresight there with who you started working with, and we are in good hands. And I appreciate everything from all the folks there at SH&P.
We appreciate that, it's a lot
Yeah.
of fun. Trust me, we have a lot, this afternoon, we do pinups in the office, we collaborate, we draw, we sketch, it's just, I'm blessed to work with such a great group, and to work with you guys, to draw, and people ask you, like, how do you do schools all the time? They're so much fun, and I do a ton of elementary schools, and I love them the best, because they're so fun and so playful, and it's whimsical. I can't be more blessed to work with such a talented group.
Okay.
Great.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yes,
thank you very much.
Well, Nicole, I'm not finished.
I know. And we're only an hour in.
Yeah.
This was worth it, though.
Thank
Sure,
you.
you're
You
still
guys
awake?
can take off now, and what we're gonna do is, they're gonna make another set, Mike and his team, and so that we can have one set that we can take out of the central office to travel and, go do road shows at, city council and Rotary and different places, and then we'll have another set over at the primary school. So when people come at the primary school, there'll be a set of those drawings for the primary also. Next, we have Dr. Brackenhoff, who is going to be updating the board on where we're at with our third grade guarantee for this school year.
Okay. Mrs. Hudiple's going to be helping me because she made the mistake of being in my office today. So I'm going to just tell you some numbers, but Mrs. Hudible and her, I was thinking of, we need to call you guys the Awesome Four or something like that, because they have done such an awesome job this year in trying to pull all of this communication together. The third grade reading guarantee is a program that is imposed on us by the state. The goal of that is to identify K through students who are behind in reading. And the job for the school is to make sure that they are providing the help to those students so that we can get them on track. Along the way, we have to communicate to our parents the importance of this, because we really don't have any flexibility. We have to follow the guidelines that the state puts forth to ensure that all students are ready to leave third grade and enter fourth grade reading on grade level. So just to kind of let you know where we are, we have about 354 third graders right now. And of those, 67.5% have already met the third grade reading guarantee through our fall testing. And they just finished another round of testing, our STAR testing, which is one of the alternate assessments, and we had 19 more students pass. So we are quickly moving towards that number. We would like to see 100% of our third graders move on to fourth grade. We have about 108 students who have yet to meet that. So they have 2 more opportunities for testing. They will take a Terra Nova test or in March, and then all of our students will take the Ohio State reading test again in April. And hopefully through those 2 assessments, we will have all of our students pass the requirements for third grade reading guarantee. If they don't, those students will be invited to our Summer Reading Academy, and they will have 2 more opportunities to pass the required test in order to move on to fourth grade. So the important part for Vicki and her team is to communicate that to parents. And I asked her to kind of share some of the things, because they really have gone out of their way to make sure that every parent is aware of these requirements and how they can work together.
That's probably one of the biggest pieces, is getting our families aware and communicating with them so that they can assist us, because it's not just us educating their kids, it's them as part of that. So back in the fall, we worked really hard and talking with families, and I'm not just saying us, it's the entire third grade team, and getting them information. And we held October 12th, a family parent night. And I remember last year saying, okay, Vicki, go ahead and do that family parent night. We didn't have anybody come. And so we did a couple of no one came. Well, we worked really hard getting that out. Those TEC calls, giving information. We had 50 families show up. And we only made, like 20 copies or something. And all of a sudden, people are running down the hall making more for us. And so that was exciting, because we had the entire 300 cafeteria full of people wanting to know about the third grade reading guarantee and concerned about their kiddos. They wanted to know what was happening. We have kids that are concerned. When those letters came out a couple of weeks ago saying if you pass the OST or not, they were excited that they passed. They knew what that meant. And so I think that's attributed to some of where our scores are right now. The 19 students that just passed that STAR reading third grade guarantee, they'll get letters tomorrow that will go home with them. The kiddos that haven't passed yet, they'll get a letter also. And Melissa Williams and Sue have been wonderful in helping us put together that letter, so there's a running record that goes home to every family. I'd be happy to share a generic one of those with you so that you can see. So just lots of communication. No one should ever get to June and go, I didn't know this was going to happen. So we have 2 more parent meetings coming up. Each parent-teacher conference night, we will have that set up, so any family that is invited into a parent conference this spring will also be given information to come to that and get more information from us, so then we can explain along with the teachers what this all means. Again, those 19 kids, just to say, I was told by Linda Carone, in the past, we'd have a handful of kids pass the STAR. This time we had 19. That's huge. That tells us that what we're doing is working, and our kids are getting comfortable and working on the computer and taking those tests. So we only have hope that that's going to continue to get better. So.
Good stuff.
And also a thank you to our third grade teachers, all of our K through 3 teachers. Any student that is not on track, the teachers have written reading improvement plans. We call them RIMPs. And again, this is where we have, we've had this requirement, and this year we were able to utilize our data coach, Melissa Williams, and create a document that makes it less time consuming for teachers to create, so they can spend more time on working with kids and less time on paperwork. So all of these things seem to be coming together, and this is again the kind of the first step or requirement to make sure that our students are on track for third grade promotion to fourth grade, and then moving on through school, and hopefully we will have all of these students graduate on the other end. So I'm going to turn that over to Mrs. Gayhart, and she's going to talk about the graduation requirements.
Yeah. I'd just like to make a comment. I wanted to thank everybody for the work you're doing. I read that packet when it came out for the board meeting, and it goes back to recognizing we've got work to do, getting a plan and implementing it. And I just wanted to thank you, Sue, the staff, and all the teachers for the work that's going on with this.
And it's a very stressful, horrible time for a lot of kids. But I think that having so many different opportunities for passage, when they were doing this, 5-6 years ago, it was fall and spring, and that was all you had, and the stress level was enormous. But adding all those extra different tests in for possibilities for passage, I hope has taken it down somewhat. And that we're able to kind of support those kids who have a lot of emotional baggage wrapped up in test passage, because that's not easy.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, the entire primary staff for
Right.
what's going on in that building. They sure are.
Your audience is slowly dwindling. Thank you, ladies.
Now go spread the good word.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight. I was here in November and shared with you the requirements of the alternate pathway that was put into place for our graduates this year. And I'll just go ahead and start talking, and the information will show up eventually. We currently have 29 students who need to fulfill the requirements of alternate pathway in order to graduate with the class of 2018. We have met with all of these students. I've met with them personally. We scheduled conferences with their parents. If their parents couldn't come, we got the parents on the phone so that everyone heard the same information. I wanted to do it so that the students understood that, one, this is a big deal, but two, that my principal thinks it's important and they believe in me and that they're going to encourage me and, you know, keep up with me and make sure that I follow through with this. We followed up with letters to parents in January just to remind them of these are what the requirements are. And in that time frame, I've met with these students multiple times, some of them 4 or 5 times, some of them just once as a follow-up. All of them have different need levels, and so just trying to make sure that the ones that need more support are getting the support that they need. We've brought the assistant principals and the counselors on board. Everyone can talk very fluently about this, so should the student come and want to talk to me or want to talk to someone else in the main office, we all know the same information. So that is. That information. Moving forward, we are having, first of all, students have to earn 21 credits, so counselors continue to monitor. We have students who have started some credit recovery programs, and so they're just, you know, being very diligent about making sure that students know where they're at with their earning of credits and their grades. We will get EOC retest scores that were taken in December back, hopefully no later than early March, possibly even yet sometime this month. And that may, with those scores, if they're high enough, that may fulfill the graduation requirement for students, and they won't have to continue with the alternate pathway because they will have qualified for graduation through the testing measure. So we're just keeping fingers crossed and hopes high that that works out for several of our students. Counselors and administration will continue to check in with these students at least 3 times a quarter. Again, depending on the level of support that they need, we'll meet with them more frequently if needed. And the mentor teachers that are helping with the senior capstone projects, we have trained them. And again, that's just another safety net in place that not only do they have to work with the students, meeting with them at least 6 times throughout the course of that senior capstone project, but they know the requirements of alternate pathway in their entirety as well. So should a student, you know, be talking about it in class, we do have multiple staff members that could answer questions if they, you know, had an immediate question. And then we will continue to meet with these students and to update the parents once we meet with them so that the parents know. For some of the students, it's going to be, you know, very smooth sailing. They'll meet the requirements, no problem. Again, some of the other ones, you know, may need a little bit more help along the way. So we will be there to provide that support. Do you have any questions?
Well, just a comment. I remember early on when we were talking about this that we were facing a 25% potential. So it's been whittled down quite a bit from
Correct.
that number. So
Correct.
it's some great work going on. So
Yes.
Yeah, thank you very much. I mean, it's the same thing I said before, recognizing we got work to do, getting a plan together, going after it, and getting it done, so thank you.
I think that's it for the superintendent's report, unless Ms. Marshall, is there anything I missed?
I thought you might need another hour.
Anything else I need to cover? If not, Amy, thank you very much.
Thanks, Amy.
Yes, thank you.
And
Well,
Amy will be making a report again here at the end of the school year to let you know exactly where we're at and where the success that they've been able to achieve here at the high school between fall and you know that drop dead date of graduation. And like she said, we expect to see a lot of students graduate that would not have had that opportunity if it's not for the work from the staff and this extra effort that everybody is doing. So with that, I'm going to turn this back over to Ms. Marshall.
Me?
Yeah.
Mr. Wilson.
recognition of visitors. Is there anybody that wishes to address the board? Didn't think so. So we'll close
Lauren wanted
recognition
to
of
say
visitors.
something.
Oh, Lauren wanted.
We know Lauren wants to say something. She says no.
Okay, may I have a motion to approve the minutes of the Thursday, January 11th organizational meeting and the regular meeting?
So moved?
Thank you, Mr. McCourt.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Milad.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Motion carries. Treasurer's report. Mrs. Marshall.
And thanks for moving the screen.
Yeah. And the projector.
To get up.
I can't take credit for it. Mark called and reminded me at around noon today. He's like, were we gonna do that?
Turning the projector.
So I think next month, we do like this, right? This is, everybody can see and
Yeah.
we don't have to get up and play musical chairs and all that. But I think next month I want to move the microphone over that way and maybe we can use the podium and not have, well, we need a table here for the project. We'll figure it out. It'll be fine.
Okay.
Move along.
Okay, so this month we're going over the December 31st, 2017 month-end financials. So December, we're 6 months in, halfway through our fiscal year. Fiscal year runs July 1 through June 30th. So we're halfway through, and that's what we're talking about tonight. Overall, revenues are on target for where we expect to be. They were about $790,000 higher, but with the forecast, they're pretty much where we expected to be. We're at 49.61% of total revenues received for the year when compared to the forecast. I will have a couple of tweaks in the May forecast, just for some miscellaneous revenue that's come in. And plus the state funding, it fluctuates so much with them pulling our student count every 2 weeks. You know, it's always fun to try to guess where that's going to end up being. But we will have an update in May to the October forecast. Expenditures were at $1.7 million higher than we were at the same time prior year. Again, this was planned. We are transferring more money out. We want to cover the 27 pays we're going to have in one fiscal year, in fiscal year 2023. So we are building up that termination benefits fund. We also have the permanent improvement fund that we're moving money into so we can make some much needed improvements to our facilities that we are not replacing, and some that we are, but just, you know, pipes burst and all that fun stuff. As of December, we had spent about 49.81% of what's been projected for the year. Again, we're right on target for where we need to be overall. I will have some tweaks. I'm sending out budgets to our buildings next week, and so we'll be looking at the year's future based on what their needs is to see if that's changed any from what we already have projected. As of December 31st, we had $22.4 million for our general fund cash balance, $5.4 million in outstanding encumbrances, for a total unencumbered balance of about $17 million, which was about $2.9 million higher than the same time last year. This is just a graph of our rolling cash balance in the general fund. We had $2.4 million in average monthly expenses for our personnel costs and $1.2 million for our average monthly expenses for everything else of the general fund, for a total of about $3.7 million. We had 333 certified employees and 316 classified employees. So these are all the people that we pay as of the last pay in December. So it includes all of our substitutes and any temporary or seasonal employees, which we don't have any temporary or seasonal employees. I'm not even sure why I said that. That's summertime stuff. So these are our investments. These are our regular general investments that we have. I don't think there was any changes from this from last month. We had one come due. We had a couple come due in December, I think. So you'll see some changes for January. These are our bond construction accounts. So hoping to collect some interest, we will collect some interest, so that way we can afford some of those alternates that you saw tonight. Exactly. We're saving up for that. So this is our cash reconciliation. We reconciled to zero. This is all of our cash, all of our funds, including any investments and everything, and we had about $51,000 in our payroll clearance account as of the end of December. And that's all I have for my financial report. I do want to mention to the board, I've talked to Mr. Wilson about it today. There is a House bill that's up getting ready to go up for a House vote. It's House Bill 343, and OSBA and OASBO and BASA have all sent out call to actions for that. I'm going to try to meet with Representative Perales sometime next week. Andy's excited about going with me to talk with him, but it affects our ability to appeal property valuation. When a property is sold, the county auditor may have a property valued at $200,000. It may come on the market and sell for $2 million. As a school district, we believe in fairness for every property taxpayer. So we would like to see that value adjusted, and we'll file with the Board of Revisions. I do that through Frost Brown Todd, our legal counsel. And it helps to keep everybody's taxes fair, because the way the effective rates work for property taxes, we receive about the same amount of money on a property tax regardless of how values change in the next year. So if someone's property is valued lower than what it should be, that means somebody else is paying more property taxes than what they should be, because that person's not paying their fair share. We got to bring that up so that it evens out. And so there's a process that's currently in place for the property owner to come to the Board of Revisions and have a hearing with the Board of Revisions, which is your county auditor, your county treasurer, and a county commissioner. It's 3 people. The House bill that's going up for a vote right now, they're wanting to change that process, make it more cumbersome and more bureaucratic, and they're wanting to politicize the whole process and put pressure on local school districts to basically not file at all. The organizations that I talked about, the Ohio School Boards Association, the Ohio Association of School Business Officials, and the BASA,
Association.
Buckeye, the Superintendent Association, they all oppose the bill. The County Auditors Association has not taken a stance on it, so they've decided to remain neutral on the issue. But they have been an interested party, and they've been attending the hearing. So Andy and I will go up and encourage Representative Perales to vote no for the House bill. So that is my position on it. I just wanted you to be aware that we're doing that. All right, that's all I have.
Thanks, Nicole.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to item 9, the consent agenda, which runs to page 4 for personnel office, business office, student services, and curriculum issues. Call your attention on page 3, item A7, have a retirement, Sue Ellen Guyton from Fairborn High School. And we'll have a resolution of tribute for 32 years in education and 23 of those years here at Fairborn High School. So it's, I hope she enjoys her retirement, but I'm sure that experience will be missed here at the school. But may I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Browning.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Reister. Any other additional comments, questions about these items? No? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Browning?
Yes.
Ms. Reister?
Yes.
Mr. McCourt?
Yes.
Mrs. Malad?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes, motion carries. Treasurer's office. We have a vote to approve the financial report and dispose of a cook and hold, whatever that is.
Keep the
So
meals
moved.
warm when they move it over.
Thank you, Mr. Browning.
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Malad. Any other comments or questions?
I'm not
Call-
sure what the cooking hold is.
I'm assuming because they
It's an
have to
FAA.
move the meals from one location to
Probably.
another, that it keeps them warm while they're
Yeah.
Makes sense.
waiting for lunch to be served.
There you go.
Cook and
the roll.
hold.
Call the roll.
Mr. Browning?
Yes.
Mrs. Malad?
Yes.
Mr. McCourt?
Yes.
Ms. Reister?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes, motion carries. And item C, approve the financial report of checks paid. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. McCourt.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Browning. Call the roll.
Mr. McCourt?
Yes.
Mr. Browning?
Yes.
Mrs. Malad?
Yes.
Ms. Reister?
Abstain.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes, motion carries. Item, actually, we combine this, 11 and 12, gifts and donations and acknowledgement of contributions.
First, we have to take a vote on.
You have to ask for a vote on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Malad, and I will second.
Can I want to mention, because the lady from Target called me. She called me and just said she'd like to donate 10 $50 gift cards to the school district, which I thought was pretty nice. I mean, it was just out of the blue. She's like, we just like to do this. I was like, well, yeah, we'll take them.
Yeah.
So, but what I've decided to do with them is I'm going to give them to the homeless liaison to use in that capacity.
Good idea.
So I thought that would
That's
be
a
a good
great
use
idea.
of them. I just wanted
Yep.
you guys
Yeah.
to be aware of that. So
Great idea.
it's very cool. All right, are we ready for a vote?
Yes.
Yes,
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
motion carries. And item 12, acknowledgement of contributions. Mr. McCourt?
Let me go back for gifts and donations. As Nicole had said, the Target in Beaver Creek, 10 $50 gift cards. The Abiding Christ Lutheran Church, school supplies valued at $200. And then the nice long list for the Hall of Honor, be it the blue donor, white donor, Skyhawk donor, the list, Jane Baker Bauer, Ph.D., Pete Bates, Bob and Dottie DePuro, Donald O. DeVault, First Baptist Church of Fairborn, Mike and Darla Foy, Jack and Judy Gayhart, Francis Gideon, Al Gilbert, Mary M. Jewel Kaplan, Dr. Dave Coker, Tom Kugler, Bill Naughton, Ed and Nora Nicola, C. Wright Pinson, Michael and Kathleen Sewer, William D. Spittler, Janet Swaim, and Mr. Jim Welty. Once again, we thank you for your generous donations.
Moving on to new business, item 13, approve the sale of football jerseys for $50 apiece, phone agreement, college credit plus, and an out-of-state professional leave. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Browning.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Reister. Any discussion, comments?
Nope.
Okay, call the roll, please.
Mr. Browning?
Yes.
Ms. Reister?
Yes.
Mr. McCourt?
Yes.
Mrs. Malad?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes, motion carries. Item 14, board member good of the order. Mr. Browning.
Okay, just a couple comments. I just wanted to comment, the SAC Club made a donation to the music club that really got them over the top for the new marching band uniforms. And the thing that's neat to me is those two groups working together. They're working together very well, and I thought it was neat that the final donation to get to the top was from the athletic club to the music club. The OMEA Solo and Ensemble Contest, we have a lot of members of our band go to that. And this year, so far, it was the best showing we've had. We had, really, what they said was it's the best showing in the last 7 years. We had 18 superiors and 7 excellents, and they're all in the A to B category, which are the top categories also. So kudos to the music program. The last thing is the musical Cinderella. It's February 22nd through the 24th. There's a lot of hard work going in by not only the staff and the students and everybody in the background, but what I'm hearing is it's going to be an outstanding musical, so everybody ought to try to attend that. Again, it's February 22nd through the 24th. Thanks.
Ms. Reister.
Well, Jerry stole some of my thunder, so.
Sorry.
I want to reiterate the importance of those two groups working together. It's been a very long time where everybody kind of operated in their own silo, so it was good to see that partnership made. There's been a lot of great leadership that worked very hard to do that, so I'm very proud of that. I attended the Fairborn High School talent show. Didn't know how that was going to go, but it was fantastic. Loved it. There was a violinist, a pianist who made that look so easy. I don't know how she did that. Couple young ladies singing and playing ukulele. There was a traditional dance, some kind of karate demonstration that was amazing. And then to finish it off, the pie eating contest. So it was a good time. Loved it. So I was very proud of those young men and women. And then the solo and ensemble, they have another showing this weekend too. So wish them all well if you see them.
Okay, thank you. Mr. McCourt?
Well, on the athletic side, I would just like to pass on congratulations our athletes of the week. Wesley Shevington, varsity swimmer. Wesley was also the GWalk Athlete of the Year, and so very proud of him. Also, another athlete of the week, varsity swimming, Mallory Schroyer. Congratulations to her. Prior to coming here this evening, I was across town at a bowling match, and another athlete of the week, J.T., I think it's Cherpesky, a varsity bowler. We have a two-brother act over there, and if you've never been, and I don't go to a lot of them, but I have gotten to a few of them, try to get to a bowling match. I mean, those things, they can get a little crazy at times, but we do have a very, very strong men's team over there with the Cherpesky brothers. And the nice thing about it is they're going to be going into, I think, Monday and Tuesday. They have both home matches here in town, and then they're going into their postseason tournament. And we've only got one senior on that men's team, so we're going to be strong in years to come. And as well, the ladies' side doing kind of a rebuilding, if you will. But great people over there. Tony Cherpesky is doing a wonderful job. This guy, and I was told tonight, I've never heard of a guy bowling a 300 game, both right-handed and left-handed. And this gentleman did it. And so he is working with our young athletes over there, and not only through their season, but in the off-season through some of the youth bowling programs that they have going on. So great group over there, and it's nice to see. And you know, we don't talk too much about the bowling team, but I have promised them that I would get back and see a couple more matches this year, and maybe even get into their postseason with them. But good athletes doing a lot of good things. And just to echo the comments about the SAC and the music group getting together, I can't remember when I've seen those two groups working as well as I'm seeing them now. And the only other thing I want to say is if you get to our basketball games, our student body is, I mean, they're something else. The thought process going into, it seems like each home week, I was there last week and ESPN was there, and the kids were manning the reporting table. So, and not the real ESPN, but the kids had the ESPN table set up. And, but a lot of good spirit going on in all classes. And I don't know about you, but when you've got a good student body like that, highly spirited, and a great band on stage, man, we got a great combination. And finally, I'm starting to get the Fairborn paper back, and some days the roll is this big when they roll the paper up, and others it's that big. So not too many pages, but we're getting a lot of good press, and I hope to see some of the pictures in the back of the room, maybe get to the Fairborn paper so some of our community people can see it. But we do appreciate the paper very much.
Is that a hint?
And that's all I have, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. McCord. Mrs. Malad?
I have nothing further to add. You all have done a lovely job of talking.
Okay, I will add that several of us attended the recent city council meeting where they passed the resolution to declare the final week, full week in January was Public Schools Week in Fairborn. So that was very nice of them to do that. But there were also presentations there from the people that will be building the new Menards. So dirt will be flying on that end of town of Fairborn with a major building in addition to our building. Also, they had a tentative approval of a new housing development along Treybine Road across the street from the existing bluffs of Treybine, the same developer, Inverness Homes, which will be 160 new homes. So that's a potential for about 200 new students if the typical math works out.
Don't forget the Dunkin' Donuts.
Right, what's next? The Dunkin' Donuts, the 5 Points intersection there where the U.S. Bank building moved out will be demolished, and a new Dunkin' Donuts will be in place, and that'll be online just about the time that construction starts on the new building.
Perfect
So
timing.
is that
Coffee
perfect
and
timing
donuts.
or what? You know? One of the councilmen it happens to be one of our bus drivers, and he was asking how large a vehicle could go through the drive-through. I had to tell him, no, you can't take the school bus through the drive-through at Dunkin' Donuts. So that's all I have. So how about a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Browning.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Reister.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Motion carries. We are adjourned.